Ethan had never imagined that he would be part of a diplomatic mission to an alien world. Yet here he was, standing at the entrance of a grand palace, waiting to meet someone who was more powerful than anyone he had ever known, Queen Kalia, ruler of the Zolarian Empire. The queen was legendary, known for her wisdom, strength, and fierce protection of her people. But today, she was facing a challenge that even her great power could not overcome. Her baby Ethan had been a peacekeeper for years, traveling to various worlds offering help where needed. However, this mission was different. He had been chosen for one specific task: help the queen with her crying child. The news had spread across the galaxy. Queen Kalia's infant daughter Zara had been crying for days, and no one could calm her. This constant crying was not just a personal issue for the queen, it was affecting her leadership. Her advisors were growing restless, and there were whispers in the court that her strength was weakening. That's when they called for help. Despite the high importance of his task, Ethan felt nervous. The idea of meeting a queen was intimidating enough, but dealing with a crying alien baby. He had no experience with children, let alone one from another world. Still, he had been trained for difficult situations, and this was no different. At least that's what he kept telling himself. The palace was grand, made of shimmering materials. Ethan couldn't quite recognize its walls glowing softly in the light. As he walked through the hallways, he marveled at the advanced technology and the beautiful alien decorations. Everything about this world was unlike Earth, yet there was a sense of familiarity in the way the palace was structured. The guards wore shining armor and moved with silent precision, watching Ethan closely as he passed. Finally, Ethan reached the main chamber. The doors opened with a soft hiss, revealing the heart of the palace. Inside, Queen Kalia stood, surrounded by her advisors. She was tall, her presence overwhelming, yet there was a softness in her eyes as she looked down at her child. Zara, the queen's daughter, was in her arms. The baby's tiny body shook with each cry, her face twisted in distress. Ethan could see the exhaustion in the queen's eyes, the weight of her responsibilities pulling at her. "Ethan," the queen said, her voice like a melody, yet heavy with concern. "You've come to help calm my child. Can you?" Ethan swallowed, unsure of what to say. He had been briefed on the situation. He knew the baby had been crying nonstop for days, causing a great deal of stress within the palace. But the stakes felt higher now that he was face to face with the queen. "I'll try my best." "Your Majesty," Ethan replied, bowing respectfully. He could feel the eyes of everyone in the room on him, their expectations heavy. Queen Kalia nodded, then gently placed Zara in Ethan's arms. The moment the baby touched him, her cries grew louder, her small hands reaching out in desperation. Ethan froze, unsure of what to do. He looked down at Zara, who gazed up at him with wide, tear-filled eyes. For a moment, Ethan felt completely powerless. How could he, a human, calm a child from another world? But he couldn't back down now. Took a deep breath, focusing on the task ahead. He remembered something from his training: children, regardless of their species, responded to comfort and care. But this wasn't just about comforting a baby. It was about proving his worth to the queen. If he failed, it could mean more than just disappointment. It could cause the queen to lose face in front of her people. Ethan tried to rock Zara gently, humming a soft tune under his breath. He had no idea if the melody would work, but he had to try something. The baby's cries didn't stop, though. The room was silent, except for the sound of Zara's wailing, echoing off the walls. The queen stood there, watching him closely, her expression unreadable. "My child has cried for days, and none of my advisors could calm her," Queen Kalia said, her voice heavy with frustration. "You are my last hope, Ethan." Ethan nodded, understanding the weight of her words. The baby's cries were now starting to affect his own emotions. He had always been good at keeping his calm, but this was different. The tension in the room was palpable. He tried again, cradling Zara closer, and spoke to her softly, telling her everything would be okay. "It's all right," he whispered, not even sure if she understood his words. "You're safe now. Everything will be fine."
But
nothing happened. The baby's crying grew louder, more frantic. Ethan's heart sank. He could feel the eyes of the queen and her advisors on him, waiting for a miracle. He didn't want to fail them, but the situation seemed hopeless. The more he tried to calm Zara, the more upset she seemed to become. His confidence began to waver. Queen Kalia stepped forward, her eyes intense. "Perhaps humans have no understanding of what it takes to calm my daughter. Your methods are foreign to us." Ethan looked up, meeting the queen's gaze. He saw no anger in her eyes, only disappointment. His heart ached, and he felt the pressure growing unbearable. Want to disappoint her suddenly? Something in the back of his mind clicked. Ethan realized that calming Zara wasn't about using the right words or methods. It was about understanding her emotions and the stress the queen was under. Maybe if he could reach that emotional connection, he could calm her. "I'm sorry." "Your Majesty," Ethan said quietly, not ready to give up yet. "I think I need to try something different, can you? Tell me more about what's been happening." The queen looked at him, her gaze softening. "The cries have been endless. I've tried everything, but nothing works. It has affected not only me, but also my people. They believe that I am weak, and my leadership is being questioned." Oh. Ethan felt a deep sympathy for her. He had never been a leader, but he understood what it was like to face expectations that felt impossible to meet. He took a deep breath and focused on the baby once more, determined to find a way to calm her. As he looked down at Zara, he realized this wasn't just about the baby, it was about the queen's strength, her role as a leader, and the weight of her responsibility. If he could help calm her child, he would not just be helping a baby. He would be helping a queen. He would be helping to restore her strength. The room grew quiet, and all Ethan could hear was the sound of Zara's cries. He wasn't sure if he was ready, but he had to try. He could feel the pressure building, but he also felt a sense of resolve. This was his chance to make a difference. Ethan stood there, holding the tiny alien baby in his arms, her cries still echoing in his ears. His mind raced with thoughts, trying to figure out what to do next. He couldn't bear to see the queen's disappointment in him. He had come here with the hope of helping, of doing something worthwhile, but now all he had done was make things worse. Queen Kalia watched him closely, her eyes never leaving him. Her sharp gaze made Ethan feel as if she could see straight through him. Pressure of the situation weighed heavily on him, but he couldn't give up now. If there was one thing he had learned during his years as a peacekeeper, it was that when faced with difficult situations, one had to think quickly and stay calm. But this wasn't just any situation. It was a matter of royal dignity and the fate of an entire kingdom. Ethan's chest tightened at the thought. The room was eerily silent now, save for the occasional sob from Zara. The baby's cries had slowed a little, but they were still loud and painful to hear. Ethan rocked her, gently trying his best to comfort her, but nothing seemed to work. Queen Kalia stepped closer to him, her presence imposing yet somehow gentle. "I understand you are trying, but my daughter has been like this for days. None of the healers, nor even my royal advisors, have been able to calm her." Her voice held a mix of frustration and sadness. "You are my last hope, Ethan. If you fail, I fear my people will see me as weak. And if that happens, I may lose everything I have fought for." Ethan looked up at her, his heart heavy with the weight of her words. He had heard the stories of how powerful Queen Kalia was, how she had led her people through wars, through famine, and through political unrest. Yet now, here she was, asking for help with something as personal as her child's cries. A reminder that even the strongest leaders had moments of vulnerability. "I'll try harder, Your Majesty," Ethan said, determination filling his voice. Couldn't let this be the end of his mission. "Promise I won't give up until I help you and your daughter." Queen Kalia studied him for a moment, as if weighing his words. Her expression softened, though only slightly. "I admire your resolve, human. But the cries have become more than just a noise. They've become a symbol, one that shakes my very position as queen. If you cannot help her, I fear it may be the end of everything." This wasn't just about calming a baby. It was about restoring the queen's strength and her standing in her kingdom. The stakes were higher than he had imagined. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said quietly, looking down at Zara again. The baby's tiny body trembled in his arms, and he could feel the warmth of her skin against his. He knew he had to do something, and fast. But what? What was it that the others had missed? He had tried all the tricks he had learned in his training. Her, humming, even speaking softly to her. None of it worked. The problem wasn't physical, it wasn't hunger or pain. There was something deeper at play here, something emotional. Ethan began to think back to what the Queen had said. Her words echoed in his mind. The cries had become a symbol. He realized that Zara's cries weren't just a cry for attention. They were a cry for something more. The baby was reflecting the Queen's own turmoil, the stress and pressure she was under. Ethan had dealt with stress before his years, and the peacekeeping force had taught him how to handle tense situations. But this was different. He wasn't just dealing with political pressures or conflicts. He was dealing with the emotional strain of a mother who felt like she was failing, and her child who was expressing that distress in the only way she knew how. Suddenly he understood. It wasn't just about calming Zara, it was about calming the Queen herself. If he could help the Queen find peace, Zara would follow suit. Ethan knew this wasn't going to be easy, but it was the only way forward. He looked up at Queen Kalia, his voice steady. "Your Majesty, I think I understand now. Zara isn't just crying because she's upset. She's reflecting your emotions, the pressure you're under, the weight of your responsibilities. It's affecting her too. You've been carrying all of this alone, and it's spilling over onto her." The Queen's expression shifted, her eyes narrowing as she considered Ethan's words. "You think my daughter is a reflection of me?" she asked, her tone laced. "With skepticism, I do," Ethan replied. "I think she's mirroring your stress, your fears. Babies, even alien babies, can sense their mother's emotions. She's not just crying because of something physical. She's crying because of the emotional burden you're carrying. If you can find a way to ease your own mind, I believe Zara will find peace as well." Queen Kalia stared at him for a long moment, her gaze intense and unwavering. Finally she spoke, her voice soft. "You are brave to speak so frankly, human. Many would not dare challenge me in this way. But you may be right." Ethan could see the walls the Queen had built around herself starting to crumble. For the first time since their meeting, there was a slight softness in her eyes. She nodded slowly, a quiet understanding passing between them. "I will try," she said quietly. "But it is not easy. I have spent my life building an empire, fighting for my people, and now my child's cries are threatening everything I have worked for. It is difficult to let go of that pressure." Ethan smiled gently, his voice filled with reassurance. "You don't have to do it alone. I'm here to help. Let's try this together. If we can calm you, I believe Zara will calm as well." The Queen took a deep breath, her shoulders visibly relaxing. She sat down slowly, her eyes still locked on Ethan. "Very well, human. Let us begin." Ethan took a seat beside her, still. Holding Zara in his arms, he gently rocked the baby again, this time more slowly, more rhythmically. He spoke to Zara in soft tones, his voice a calming presence. As he did, he kept his focus on Queen Kalia, speaking to her in quiet words, encouraging her to breathe deeply and focus on the peace that she wanted for her child. Minutes passed, and slowly, very slowly, Zara's cries began to soften. Ethan could feel the change, the shift in the baby's energy. As if sensing her mother's calm, Zara started to relax in his arms, her tiny body going limp. It wasn't immediate, and it wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Ethan could see the Queen's shoulders relax even more as she observed her daughter quieting down. "We are not done yet," Queen Kalia whispered. "But you have given me hope, Ethan. Maybe there is something to this after all." Ethan smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment, but he knew there was still much work to be done. But for the first time since arriving, he felt like he was making a real difference. And that, he realized, was the first step to restoring the Queen's strength. Ethan continued to hold Zara gently, her cries slowly turning into soft whimpers as he rocked her back and forth. The room, once filled with tension, was now quieter. The baby's body had relaxed, but Ethan knew this wasn't the end. He had helped calm Zara, but he could sense the Queen's lingering worries. The challenge was far from over. Queen Kalia, watching him with keen interest, gave a small nod. Ah, her eyes softened, though there was still an unspoken weight in her gaze. Could see how much this moment meant to her. The cries of her child had shaken her, not just as a mother, but as a leader. A mother's love was powerful. But a queen's duty often came with sacrifices. You've done more than I expected, Ethan, Queen Kalia said quietly, her voice laced with both gratitude and apprehension. But the challenge is not over. Zara may be quiet for now, but will she stay calm? Will she remain peaceful? Ethan hesitated for a moment, feeling the pressure once again. He had only helped calm Zara temporarily, and there was no way to guarantee that it would last. But the Queen was right. The challenge wasn't just about one moment. It was about her ability to handle her responsibilities, not just as a ruler, but as a mother. He had given her a brief respite, but the true test lay ahead. I understand, Your Majesty, Ethan replied, his voice steady. I'll keep trying. It's not enough to calm her once it's about finding the source of her distress. That's what we need to figure out. The Queen looked at him thoughtfully, as if weighing his words. She seemed to be considering something deep within herself, searching for answers she hadn't yet found. Ethan felt a sense of empathy for her. He had seen many leaders face pressure, but the weight of a mother's love was something he could not ignore. It was clear that Zara's cries were not just a matter of a child's discomfort. They were a reflection of something far deeper. Queen Kalia's eyes flickered briefly with doubt, but she nodded. Very well, I'll allow you to try again. Ethan, but no, this hit is not just for Zara. I need this too. If you can calm her permanently, you will have earned not only my gratitude, but also my trust. I will grant you whatever you desire. Her words lingered in the air, heavy with promise. Ethan felt a jolt of surprise. The Queen wasn't just offering him a reward for success. She was placing a great deal of trust in him. The pressure was immense, but it was also an opportunity he couldn't ignore. I had to make this work not just for Zara, but for the Queen herself. The room fell silent again, save for the quiet sounds of Zara's soft breathing. Ethan looked at the baby. Her small form now nestled peacefully in his arms. She seemed to be at rest, but there was still an uncertainty in the air. This peace was fragile. Ethan knew that maintaining it would require more than just physical actions. It would require understanding. Ethan shifted his focus to Queen Kalia, who was standing a few feet away, still watching him. Her expression was unreadable, yet there was a vulnerability in her eyes. It was rare for someone of her status to show any sign of weakness. But in this moment, she wasn't just a queen. She was a mother in distress. Tell me more about Zara, Ethan said, his voice soft but firm. What's been happening? What changed? Maybe understanding the root of the problem will help us figure out how to fix it. The Queen hesitated for a moment, as if deciding whether or not to share her inner thoughts. Finally, she spoke, her voice quiet but filled with emotion. She's always been a calm child. I have raised her with love and care, as any mother would. But recently, something has changed. The cry started 3 days ago with no clear reason. I've tried everything, feeding her, rocking her, soothing her, but nothing works. Yes. As if she feels the weight of my own burdens, as if she senses my worries. And now, every cry is a reminder that I am failing her. Ethan listened closely, his heart aching for the Queen. It was clear that her troubles weren't just political, they were deeply personal. The weight of ruling a vast empire was taking its toll on her, and her child, so sensitive to her emotions, was reflecting that stress. I understand, Your Majesty, Ethan said softly. Zara is not just reacting to her surroundings. She's picking up on your emotions. Babies can sense what their mothers are feeling, and it seems like she's reflecting your stress. The pressure you're under, your fears, your responsibilities are affecting her. Queen Kalia looked at him, her eyes wide with surprise. You think my daughter can feel my emotions? But she's only an infant. How could she possibly understand? Ethan nodded. It's true that babies are still developing, but their connection to their mothers is strong. It's natural for them to mirror their surroundings. And if you're feeling anxious, fearful, or overwhelmed, she may be picking up on that. Your emotions are likely the key to understanding her distress. The queen's expression softened, her features falling into a contemplative silence. Ethan could see that she was beginning to grasp what he was saying. Zara's cries were not simply a reaction to discomfort. They were an expression of the emotional tension between mother and child. Then what must I do? Queen Kalia asked, her voice full of uncertainty. How do I calm her when I cannot even calm myself? Ethan thought for a moment. He knew that calming Zara was important, but more than that, helping the queen find peace was just as crucial. You need to find a way to calm yourself, Your Majesty. If you can release some of the pressure you're feeling, Zara will follow your lead. She senses your emotions, and if you can find peace within yourself, it will help her feel safe. Queen's eyes widened, and for the first time, she looked vulnerable. The weight of her duties as queen had always been her shield, her armor, but now it was clear that it was also her burden. I have spent so long protecting my empire. I forgot to care for myself, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Perhaps I've been too focused on the needs of my people, neglecting my own heart. Ethan offered a gentle smile, his voice comforting. It's not easy, Your Majesty. You've carried the weight of an entire empire on your shoulders. But it's important to take a moment to care for yourself, to find peace. That's the only way you can truly help Zara. Queen Kalia looked at her daughter, who was now sleeping peacefully in Ethan's arms. Her face softened with a mix of relief and sadness. Perhaps you are right, she said quietly. I must learn to let go, even if just for a moment. Ethan nodded, hoping that they were on the right path. The journey wasn't over yet, but they were beginning to understand each other. Queen's strength was not in her power to rule but in her ability to let go, to show vulnerability. And in that vulnerability, there was a chance for peace for both her and Zara. The quiet in the room was almost peaceful, yet Ethan felt the weight of the task still hanging over him. Zara had fallen asleep in his arms, her soft breaths filling the silence. But despite the calm and the baby's sleep, Ethan could still feel the tension in the air. Queen Kalia stood across the room, her eyes fixed on her daughter, deep in thought. Ethan shifted his gaze to the queen. There was something different about her now, something that had shifted after their conversation. The hard lines of responsibility seemed to soften ever so slightly, though the burden of leadership still rested heavily on her. He couldn't help but wonder if, for the first time in a long while, she felt like she could breathe, like she was no longer just the queen, but also a mother. But they both knew the journey wasn't over. Zara was calm for now, but it wasn't guaranteed to last. Ethan knew they couldn't afford to relax just yet. There was still so much to understand. So much more that needed to be done to make sure Zara would remain calm and the queen would regain her peace. The silence stretched on for a moment before Queen Kalia spoke, her voice breaking the stillness. You've done what I thought was impossible, Ethan, she said softly, her gaze on her sleeping daughter. Zara is calm. For now, at least. But what happens when she wakes up? Will she cry again? What if the stress returns? Ethan sighed, carefully placing Zara back in her crib. He turned to face the queen, his voice gentle, but filled with conviction. We need to make sure that this peace isn't temporary. It's not just about calming Zara now, it's about creating a lasting sense of security for both her and for you, Queen. Kalia's eyes narrowed in thought. And how do you propose we do that? The cries have been constant, day after day. Nothing has worked. How do we keep her from becoming upset again? Ethan hesitated, considering her words. He had come to realize something important during his time here. It wasn't just about the baby, it was about Kalia's own inner peace. She had been carrying the weight of her empire, her responsibilities, her worries. That tension had been feeding into Zara's cries. Until the queen could truly find peace within herself, there was no way to calm her child for long. Majesty, I believe the key to calming Zara is you, Ethan said slowly. I don't just mean in a physical sense. You've done well to comfort her, but it's more than that. You need to find a way to ease the stress you're carrying. Your emotions, your energy, they're influencing her. If you can let go of some of that tension, I think Zara will feel it too. The queen's gaze softened as she listened, but a look of uncertainty remained on her face. She had never allowed herself to fully relax. She had always been the protector, the leader, the ruler. Letting go of that control felt like an impossible task. "You're asking me to change everything I know, Ethan," Queen Kalia said, her voice trembling slightly. "I've spent my life preparing for this role. My empire, my people, depend on me. To be anything less than perfect would mean failure." Ethan nodded, understanding her fear. "I know it's hard, Your Majesty. But perfection isn't the answer. No one is perfect. Even the strongest leaders have moments of vulnerability. It's not a weakness, it's part of what makes you human. Zara needs to see you as more than just a queen. She needs to see you as a mother, someone who can let go, even just for a moment. That's when true peace will come." For the first time, Queen Kalia's expression softened further. She looked at Zara, who was still sleeping soundly, and for a brief moment, the weight of her responsibility seemed to lift. It was as if she was seeing her daughter through a different lens, one that allowed her to be more than just a ruler. "I've never allowed myself to be weak, Ethan," she whispered. "I've never allowed myself to feel vulnerable. I see now that my fear has caused so much harm not just to me, but to my daughter as well." Ethan smiled gently, his voice calm. "You don't have to be perfect. You're not weak for feeling. It takes strength to show vulnerability. Zara needs to know that she's not alone in her distress. And you need to know that you're not alone in yours." The queen turned her gaze back to Zara, her eyes filled with both love and sorrow. Took a slow, deep breath and let it out, trying to release some of the tightness in her chest. The tension that had been building inside her for so long felt like it was finally beginning to ease, little by little. Ethan stood quietly beside her, offering a reassuring presence. He could see the queen's struggle, but he also saw the determination in her. She was trying, and that was all that mattered. For the first time, she wasn't just carrying the weight of the galaxy. She was allowing herself to share it with someone else, someone who cared, someone who understood. "I think we're getting somewhere," Ethan said, his voice encouraging. "It's not an easy road, but it's a road worth walking. If you can find a way to calm your mind, your heart, then Zara will follow. The peace you seek isn't just about silence, it's about connection." The queen looked up at him, her face now showing a mix of relief and uncertainty. "I want to believe you," she said quietly. "But I've carried this burden for so long. Letting go feels impossible." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, offering silent support. "It's not about letting go of everything. It's about taking small steps. Start with today, with this moment. Let go of the pressure to be perfect. You don't have to solve everything right now. Just take it one step at a time." Queen Kalia nodded slowly, the weight in her shoulders easing just a little. She turned back to Zara, who was still sleeping peacefully. The baby's gentle breathing seemed to bring a sense of calm to the room, as if both mother and child were learning to find peace together. "I will try," Kalia said, her voice more confident now. "I'll try to let go, for Zara, for myself." Ethan gave a small smile, glad to see her accepting the challenge. "That's all anyone can do. Just take it one step at a time."
Yo.
"See, when you find your own peace, Zara will too." And so, they sat there in silence, the quiet of the room enveloping them both. Ethan watched as the queen began to breathe more deeply, her eyes softening as she looked at her daughter. For the first time, the weight of the world seemed to lift from her shoulders. It wasn't an easy task, but it was a start. As the minutes passed, the room felt warmer, calmer. The cries had stopped, and Zara was at peace. But it was more than just the babies. Quiet, it was the beginning of a new journey for the queen. A journey toward balance, toward understanding, and toward the peace she had been seeking for so long. And for the first time, Ethan felt like he had made a difference. The road ahead was still long, but the first steps had been taken. The queen and her child were learning to find their peace together. This part continues the emotional journey of Ethan and Queen Kalia as they slowly begin to break down the barriers of stress and fear. The story shows that sometimes true peace comes not from external actions, but from internal understanding and acceptance. Ask ChatGPT. The days that followed seemed to flow more peacefully. Zara's cries became less frequent, and when they did come, they were softer, easier to calm. Ethan could see the change in the queen as well. Her posture was less rigid, her eyes less burdened with worry. Though she had not fully let go of the immense responsibilities she carried as queen, she was beginning to open herself to the idea of vulnerability. It was a slow, gradual process, but Ethan could see the impact of their work. Queen Kalia had taken to spending more time with Zara, her hands less tense when she held the child. They had begun to form a bond that felt different, more natural. It wasn't just the mother and the ruler. It was the mother and her child, sharing the same space, the same quiet. Ethan had been spending his days observing, helping where he could, but mostly giving the queen space to find her own way. The two had grown comfortable in each other's company, an unspoken understanding between them. They worked together in silence sometimes, the room filled with the soft sounds of Zara's contentment. There was no longer a sense of urgency, no longer a feeling of failure hanging in the air. The peace they had found seemed to grow with each passing day. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and purple, Queen Kalia invited Ethan to sit with her. It was the first time she had asked for his company in such a way. Till now, their conversations had been about Zara, about the progress they were making. But tonight felt different. Ethan sat down across from her, the warmth of the setting sun casting a golden glow on her face. For a moment they both simply watched Zara, who was peacefully asleep in her crib. The baby's small chest rose and fell with each breath, a calmness that seemed to reflect the room around them. "I never imagined I'd be able to find this peace," Queen Kalia said, her voice soft, almost as if she was speaking to herself. "I've spent so many years fighting battles, protecting my people, that I forgot what it meant to simply live in the moment, to allow myself to feel, to be human." Ethan smiled, a gentle understanding in his eyes. "It's not easy to let go of what we carry, especially when it feels like the weight of the world is on our shoulders. But sometimes, the greatest strength comes from allowing ourselves to feel, to embrace our vulnerabilities." The queen's eyes met his, and for the first time, Ethan saw something in her he hadn't noticed before. Not just a queen, not just a mother, but a woman who had been carrying a burden for far too long and was now finally allowing herself to heal. "I have fought so hard to protect my empire, my people," Kalia continued. "I've always believed that if I didn't keep my guard up, I would fail them. But in doing so, I lost touch with my own heart." Zara's cries, "Ethan," they were a wake-up call. "I was losing myself in the process of ruling. I didn't even realize it until now." Ethan nodded. "It's easy to get lost in the responsibilities of leadership. But the truth is, you can't be the leader you want to be if you don't first take care of yourself. Zara needed you, yes, but you needed yourself too." The queen was silent for a moment, reflecting on his words. Ethan could see that she was still processing the truth of it. He knew that healing wasn't a quick fix. It took time, understanding, and a willingness to change. He had seen it in himself, and now he saw it in her. "I owe you more than words." "Kinsei," Kalia said quietly, her voice sincere. "You've shown me that it's okay to be vulnerable. You've helped me see that I can care for my people without losing myself in the process." Ethan felt a sense of humility wash over him. "I only helped guide you, Your Majesty. I did the hard work. It's your strength, your willingness to change that has brought you here." Queen Kalia's gaze softened, and a small, almost imperceptible smile tugged at her lips.
Nice.
"You've done more than guide me, Ethan. You've given me something I thought I had lost forever. You've given me hope." Ethan looked at her, surprised by the weight of her words. There was something deeper here, something unspoken. But before he could respond, Queen Kalia spoke again. Her voice steady, but filled with something more. "I have thought long and hard about what you've done for me. For Zara," she said. Your kindness, your patience, it has not gone unnoticed. I promised you something when you first arrived here. I promised you a reward if you could calm my daughter. But I find that what you've done for me goes beyond anything I could offer in return." Ethan was puzzled, not quite understanding where this was leading. "Your Majesty, I did what anyone would do. You don't owe me anything." The Queen's eyes locked with his, and there was a depth in her gaze that made Ethan's heart race, though he couldn't explain why. "I know I don't owe you anything, Ethan, but the truth is, you've done something that has changed me, changed the way I see the world, and I want to show you my gratitude in a way that goes beyond words." She took a deep breath, as if gathering her courage. "I promised you a reward for calming Zara, and I want to keep that promise, but I also want to offer you something more." Ethan looked at her, unsure of what she meant. His mind raced with possibilities, but nothing could have prepared him for what Queen Kalia said next. "I want to offer you my hand in marriage." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He stared at her, speechless. Marriage, to the Queen of the Zolarian Empire, was beyond anything he could have imagined. His mind raced, trying to process her words. "Was she serious?" Queen Kalia continued, her voice calm and steady. "I know this may seem sudden, but I believe it's the right thing to do. You've proven your worth, not just as a peacekeeper, but as someone who can help me be a better leader and a better mother. I trust you, and I want you by my side." Ethan opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He was stunned, unable to fully grasp what was happening. This wasn't just a promise of gratitude. This was a proposal from a queen. To him, a simple human. "I understand if you're not ready to make such a decision," Queen Kalia said, her voice gentle. "But I wanted you to know how deeply I appreciate what you've done. I won't pressure you. Take your time." Ethan stood there, his mind racing. He hadn't expected anything like this. And yet, as he looked at Queen Kalia, he realized that she was offering him more than just an alliance. She was offering him a chance to be part of something greater, to be part of her world. And for the first time in his life, Ethan realized he didn't know what to say. The promise was unexpected, but perhaps it was exactly what he had been searching for. This part explores the unexpected turn of events where Queen Kalia offers Ethan her hand in marriage. It deepens their connection and sets the stage for the next phase of their journey together. The emotional growth of both characters continues, and Ethan is left to decide what path he will take. Ethan stood there, staring at Queen Kalia, still trying to process the words she had just spoken. Her proposal was something he had never expected. The offer to marry her wasn't something he could simply dismiss, but it was also something he had no idea how to handle. His mind raced as he thought about the consequences. This wasn't just a matter of love. It was a political decision that could change the course of his life forever. Queen Kalia watched him carefully, her expression calm but expectant. She had made her offer with complete sincerity, but now she was giving him space to think. She didn't want to force him into anything, but she needed to know where they stood. The silence between them was thick, charged with the weight of her words. Ethan cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "Your Majesty, I don't know what to say. It's a lot to take in." His voice was quiet, filled with uncertainty. "You're offering me a chance to be part of your world, and I never thought I would be in a position to say yes or no. I'm just a human. How could I possibly be the right choice for someone like you?" Queen Kalia's gaze softened, and she took a step closer to him. "I don't see you as just a human, Ethan. I see you as someone who has helped me in ways I never thought possible. You've shown me patience, understanding, and strength. You've done something for me that no one else could do. You've given me peace. That's more than enough to earn my trust and respect." Words resonated with Ethan. He had never thought of himself as anything special, but in this moment, the Queen was seeing him in a way no one ever had before. She wasn't just seeing the peacekeeper or the outsider. She was seeing the person who had helped her find her way back to herself. It was humbling, and it made him feel a sense of connection he hadn't felt in a long time. "I appreciate that, Your Majesty," Ethan said, his voice softer now. "But this is all so sudden. I've been so focused on helping you and Zara, I haven't had time to think about what this could mean for me." I'm just not sure if I'm ready for something like this. Queen Kalia nodded, understanding the complexity of the situation. I didn't expect you to say yes immediately. I know this is a big decision. But I wanted you to know how much I value what you've done for me. And I wanted to offer you a future one where we could build something together. You've helped me rediscover what it means to be vulnerable, to let go of the burden I've been carrying. And I want to share that future with you, if you're willing. Ethan felt a mix of emotions swirling inside him. He never expected to find himself in this position. Marrying a queen was something that only happened in stories, not in real life. But as he looked at Queen Kalia, he couldn't deny the truth of her words. She had shown him a side of herself that was rare for someone in her position, a side that was open, honest, and willing to trust him. I never imagined I'd be here in this situation with you, Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. But I can't deny the connection we've built. I've seen you change, Kalia. I've seen you let go of your fears and open up. And that means more to me than anything. But I need time. Time to think about what this really means. It's time to understand what it would be like to be a part of your world. Queen Kalia nodded, her expression softening further. I understand. You don't have to decide now. Take all the time you need. Know that the offer is always there. I believe that together, we could do great things, not just for my empire, but for each other. For the first time, Ethan allowed himself to think about the possibility of a life with Kalia. It wasn't just the idea of becoming part of a royal family that appealed to him. It was the chance to build something meaningful with someone who understood the value of vulnerability and trust. It was the chance to stand beside someone who had been through their own struggles. Someone who knew what it meant to carry a burden and still find a way to move forward. As the days passed, Ethan found himself reflecting on Kalia's offer more and more. He couldn't deny the feelings that had grown between them. There was something genuine about their connection, something that went beyond political alliances and royal duties. He felt an attraction to her not just because of her position, but because of the person she was becoming. A person who was no longer bound by her fears, but someone who was learning to embrace the present. To share herself with others, he also thought about the future. If he accepted Kalia's offer, he would be stepping into a world unlike anything he had ever known. The life of a peacekeeper was nothing compared to the life of royalty. It would be politics, responsibility, and endless challenges. But there would also be the opportunity to build a future with Kalia, to help guide her as she navigated the complexities of leadership, and to raise Zara together in a world of peace and understanding. One evening, as Ethan sat alone in his quarters, he found himself staring out at the stars. The vastness of space always made him feel small, but tonight it felt different. He wasn't just an outsider looking in. It was part of something bigger, something that could change the course of history. And as he thought about the future, he realized that the path forward wasn't as uncertain as it had seemed before. Ethan knew what he had to do. The next morning, he sought out Queen Kalia. She was standing in the palace gardens, gazing out at the horizon. The sunlight danced in her hair, and for a moment, she looked as though she were lost in thought. Ethan approached her slowly, his heart pounding.
Ow.
When she saw him, she turned to face him. Her expression hopeful but calm. I've made my decision, Ethan said, his voice steady. I'm not ready to promise forever just yet, but I want to be by your side. I want to see where this goes. Together. Queen Kalia's face lit up with a smile that was both relieved and joyful. You've made me the happiest woman in the Galaxy, Ethan, she said softly. I don't know what the future holds, but I know it will be brighter with you by my side. And in that moment, as the sun rose higher in the sky, Ethan realized that this was just the beginning. The future was uncertain, but with Kalia, with Zara, he had found a new purpose, a new life. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that they were no longer alone. This part wraps up Ethan's journey to making a decision. About his future with Queen Kalia, it shows his growth and acceptance of the unexpected offer, highlighting the bond that has formed between them. The future now seems full of possibility and hope, and their shared journey is just beginning.